Imagine you've just arrived in Singapore, you step out of your hotel and you are hungry. Hungry to try one of Singapore's UNESCO recognized hawker centers. But a feeling of confusion creeps over you. Which one should I go to? What should I order? Do I need to bring cash? And that's before you even set foot in the hectic crowds of a hawker center for yourself. I know these feelings because I had them when I first started visiting Singapore. I was intimidated by the strange signs, the names, the crowds, the noise, and the fear of upsetting the locals. I also made a lot of mistakes, from sitting at the wrong tables to overpaying and spending too much money. So I put together this 5-step guide based on my now hundreds of visits to hawker centers, overcoming all the mistakes and fears of a new visitor, getting to grips with the huge variety available, and learning some of the insider tips and even a secret ritual that Singaporeans love to follow when they visit hawker centers. So stick around and I'll share all of this with you in my guide. The first challenge I usually find comes from the sheer number of hawker centres that you can choose from. There are over 100 official hawker centres spread across Singapore, and that doesn't even include coffee shops, which are also outdoor eateries selling hawker style food. Most of these hawker centres are out in the heartlands of Singapore and far off the beaten path that most travellers follow during their trip. Thankfully, there are some local favourites in and around central areas that are close to most of the hotels that travellers stay in. These include Maxwell, which is at the south end of Chinatown and home to the famous Tian Tian chicken rice. Chinatown Complex, which is adjacent to the Buddha Tooth Relic Temple within the street markets of Chinatown. Albert Centre at the rear of the Bugis Walking Street, and Tekka Centre located near the Little India MRT station. La Pa Sat is also technically a hawker centre, but it doesn't show up on the government map as it is operated by a private company. Satay by the Bay, which is great for anyone visiting Gardens by the Bay, sells hawker style food, but it's more of a collection of outdoor restaurants rather than a proper hawker centre. If you're willing to travel a little bit further, Golden Mile on Beach Road, Old Airport Road and Tiong Bahru Market are also great hawker centres for visitors to check out. The big mistake to watch out for when planning which hawker centre to visit, and I still make this mistake all the time, is not checking the closure times on the government website before you visit. Hawker centres are closed periodically for cleaning and renovation work, and this could be anything from 3 days to 3 months, but closures are always published on the website in advance to help you plan your visit. Finding a hawker centre goes hand in hand with figuring out what to eat. With an ever-changing landscape of hawker stalls opening, closing, relocating, changing hands and changing recipes, it can be hard even for locals to keep up with the best stalls to try at each hawker centre. The next challenge you'll face in your quest to satiate your Singapore food appetite then is figuring out what to eat. There are 2 strategies I like to use when planning a trip to a hawker centre. The first is to Google and research food blogs. I usually find written blogs better than TikToks and video because they tell you clearly the price and the opening hours of the stall. Every stall has a number indicating the floor and unit of the stall as well, and the blogs will include this in their recommendations to help you find it. I'm also a little bit biased because I run a blog about visiting Singapore. The second is simply to go to the hawker centre itself and see which stalls are doing well at that time of day. Some stalls are more of a breakfast food and others are more of a lunch or dinner food. Usually popular stores will have a bit of a queue, generally be busy, or you can spy their dishes on various tables around the hawker centre. I've shared some of the dishes that I like to eat as well as how much they cost later on in this video, so stick around for that. Have you ever been standing awkwardly in front of a crowded lunchroom, holding a tray of food and wondering which strangers you can approach to ask if you can sit with them to eat? This used to haunt me back in my school days, but thankfully Singapore has developed a secret ritual that all locals follow to solve this problem. Even for introverted solo diners who do not like to talk to strangers, this ritual is called Chop. The Chop ritual begins when you see an empty table or a table that might be empty soon. Once spotted, you make a dash to be the first one there and get ready your magical object that will mark this territory as yours. Once near the table, ensuring that you didn't push anyone else out of the way to get there, hurl your object at the table to mark it as yours and to ward off other potential sitters. With the object in place, the seats reasonably indicated by the object are reserved for you. If someone later sits at this table, it is acceptable for you to say to them that this was choked by you. You are now free to go and find your stall, order your food, collect it, and return to your table. Please use something obvious but not valuable to choke. A packet of tissues works well, so does an umbrella. I had a friend who used a small plastic phone stand, and one day it was swept away into the bin because the cleaner thought it was rubbish. He came back to the table, found strangers sitting there, but had no foot to stand on when saying it was choked by him. If reserving multiple seats on a table, I suggest leaving multiple magic objects or place one big object in a position that clearly covers multiple seats. As a visitor, it is imperative that we respect the chope ritual. Please do not annoy locals by disrespecting it. Table sharing is acceptable though in Singapore. If you see a spare seat next to someone at a crowded hawker centre, it is okay to ask them if you can share the table with them. My insider tip here is to always bring a packet of tissues with you when you move around Singapore. They're great for wiping the sweat from your brow, cleaning the table before you eat, cleaning your hands after you eat, and even reserving your seat in this ritual of chope that the locals follow. So are you getting hungry yet? Because after reserving your table, we're finally approaching the payoff point in our quest. We can order our food. Once you've found a stall that looks good, approach it and take a look at the menu to figure out what you want and to confirm that they haven't sold out yet. Sometimes there will be long menus to explore and other times it will be a single food item that is sold in different sizes. If the stall is very popular, you might have to join a queue to order your food. I've shared some ideas for dishes you can order and the cost for these dishes later on in this video. Once you've ordered, payment is usually made first before receiving the food. Credit card is not accepted at the vast majority of hawkers. In fact, I've only seen 2 hawkers within the official hawker centres that accept credit card. Often, if a hawker accepts cashless payments, it'll be via a local QR code system that most visitors unfortunately do not have access to. This means cash is the easiest way to pay for your meal. My insider tip here is to pay with coins. Hawker stalls love receiving payment in coins as it saves them troublesome trips to the bank to go and get change later on, and it's also a win for visitors who would otherwise leave the country with a pile of coins. I still have no idea what to do with my foreign coins that I've received from all the countries that I've visited. Many hawker stalls will ask you to do self-service. This means picking up your own tray from the pile, preparing your own cutlery, and pouring out the sauces that you want to eat with your meal. I also recommend buying a drink to go with your meal. Drink stalls are ubiquitous, selling tea, coffee, juice, water, and beer. Try a sugarcane juice, lime juice, or calamansi juice if you're looking for a local flavor that will also cool you off from the heat. My favorite hawker drink though is iced coffee si kosong, which means iced coffee with evaporated milk and no sugar. So step 5 then is eating. We're finally ready to eat. Tuck in and enjoy your meal amongst the atmosphere of a hawker center. The open air supplemented by fans often means that there's a cool breeze blowing through the center, and if you're eating something spicy, ironically it has a way of making you feel cooler. When you've finished eating, return your cutlery and trays to the designated return stands. Halal trays and cutlery are usually colored green, and these should go on the halal stand. Everything else goes in the non-halal stand. While there is technically a fine applicable if you don't return your tray and cutlery, I've never heard of this being applied to a tourist. Singapore generally prefers an education-first approach to rule enforcement, and they'd rather educate you about this rule than fine you. Even though it's not strictly required, it might be a nice idea to wipe down your table after you've eaten if you've made a significant mess. Hand wash stations are available throughout a hawker center, often located near the toilets. And my insider tip here is to keep a couple of 10-cent coins with you when you visit the old school hawker centers in the central areas of Singapore, because some of the toilets still charge an entrance fee of 10 cents. This used to irk me as a visitor until I learned that it's to cover the cleaners' wages. Then it didn't really bother me so much. Speaking of costs, let's go through what it costs to visit a hawker center. This breakfast set of toast, eggs, and iced coffee cost me $3.90. This plate of Hokkien mee, which is like a prawn and pork noodle, cost $5. These 2 pieces of popia, which is like a soft spring roll, together cost $4.40. And this dessert, a lovely chendol that I have no idea how to explain, cost $2.80. While it's clearly possible to get away with a meal for $5 or less, I recommend budgeting at least $10 per person when visiting a hawker center. Fish, seafood, and satay tend to cost more still, so I'd recommend budgeting at least $20 if you plan to eat one of those, and up to $50 per person if you plan to eat crab. Eating at a hawker center is just one of the things that you can do in Singapore for less than $10. To find out the other things that you can do here for next to nothing, check out my full list in this video.